Welcome. You're about to watch a DVD on the Stephenville Yellow Jackets Hurry Up No Huddle passing game. This is combo routes to beat effective zone coverage. Before we get started, there's several things I think you need to know about our system, our program. Our program has won 4 state championships, 93 and 94, 98 and 99, set national passing records over that time, sent as many as 8 and 9 Division I quarterbacks, and one into the NFL. One just this past year, drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, Kevin Cobb, played at Stephenville, very successful passing, and had a great career at the University of Houston. We've also sent several others, Brandon Stewart's. So this video is dedicated to all those guys, great quarterbacks and teams and programs that have came out of Stephenville. We've had Jevin Sneed, which is now at the University of Mississippi, Cody Spano, which is going to Oklahoma State. So there's been a lot of great quarterbacks that have contributed to our program and to the success of putting Stephenville on the map as a passing-oriented offense. So what we're going to talk about now is how to effectively beat zone coverage, different combination routes. And hopefully, as we talk through here over the next 30 minutes, that we talk about and maybe 3 or 4 different plays that could help you out and help your program out be successful as you start your season. Our combination routes that help to beat zone coverage, but before we get into the actual plays, there's so much about training and developing the quarterback that makes it so effective. And so as we start talking about our receivers and about our quarterback, I think there's a few things that you need to know that we teach in the off season and to our junior high kids as we develop and bring them up. The first thing that's taught to our quarterbacks and to our receivers is they got to identify the different coverages. For example, what does it mean for it to be cover 4? We have to talk the same lingo. As a head coach, as the offensive coordinator, if I say 2 high or 1 high or center field's open or closed, they need to know those type of things. And how we start that is we start them at the young age, and when we get them in the 7th grade, and we start talking the same lingo with our junior high staff as we do with our high school staff. And all of it just intertwines in together to help develop these quarterbacks and to make them successful at the next level. For example, as we start talking, the first thing we start teaching our younger kids is what is cover 4? And I give them an opportunity to tell me, kind of go around the room and talk about what cover 4 is, and then we'll start talking the specifics of it. Because, you can sit and you can watch TV on Saturdays and Sundays, and if you know what you're looking for, you can pretty much dictate or at least have an estimate of what kind of coverage these teams are running. But if you don't know what to look for, then you're totally oblivious to the situation. So that's what we do. We teach our young kids, as well as our older kids, what they need to look for. In cover 4, the safeties. Where are the safeties? How many safeties are there? Safeties will align inside the number 2 receiver. In our previous DVDs, we saw our base formation is a regular formation, and it's a 2-by-2 look. So that inside receiver, we know exactly where he's going to be. So is the safety, he'll align inside the number 2 receiver, and on pre-snap, right before the ball snapped, he's going to be at a depth of about 10 to 12 yards. 12 may be a little deep at times, but it's usually around the 10-yard mark, and they're going to focus in on more of the number 2 receiver. His eyes are going to be honed in more on what that number 2 receiver is doing. If he's getting a vertical push, And if so, he's going to stay in his back pedal. At 12 yards, he's got to make a decision that if that inside receiver is still on a vertical push with him, he now absorbs him. It now becomes more of a man look to him. If he shuts down at 6 or he starts a crossing pattern, then his eyes will roll to the number 1 receiver. So all these things our kids have to know. But the main thing is the pre-snap depth of 10 to 12 yards. The cover 2 principles. And in high school, Texas high school football, we don't see a whole lot of true cover 2 to where you have a hard press corner, pigeoned in, what we call pigeoned in, or slightly turned in, playing outside leverage, funneling everything inside. But what we do see, and we will on occasion see some teams that play cover 2 on us, but the alignment of the safeties will be wider. They're going to be a little wider outside the hash, and they're going to be a little bit deeper because, again, they have to cover the deep half of the field. They're going to be quick to bail out. They're not going to be nearly as responsible for run threat. Safeties will be on or near the hash. The cornerback will be low, pigeoned in, as I said earlier, and looking in at the quarterback. One thing we tell him is that if you've recognized the 2 safety look, to roll your eyes to the cornerbacks, and if the cornerbacks are staring in from number 2 receiver to the tackle to the quarterback, that is their gauge, that is their view. It has now become a true cover 2, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. The coverage continues on this as we talk about cover 2 man. Cover 2 man, the safeties are going to be deeper than normal. Our quarterback must look at the outside linebacker. So now we've identified a deep 2 safeties. We've looked out and we see hard press coverage out on the corners. Now we've got to roll our eyes quickly into the outside linebackers. They should be head up to inside, focusing on the number 2 receiver. Note, and this is a big thing to our kids, if we still can't figure out what coverage that they're in, then we'll simply motion a back out of the backfield and back in. And what'll happen is if someone goes with him, then now we know it's man. So that tells us if it's a cover 2 man or not. A 1 high look, and we start talking about number of highs. A 1 high look, we tell our kids there's 2 different coverages that we're predominantly going to see. In a 1 high look, we're going to see a man free, or we're going to see a cover 3. How are we going to distinguish the difference? We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but it basically talks about the depth of the corners. The quarterbacks and receivers are taught to identify whether it's a 1 high, a 2 high, or what we call a no deep. A 1 high look, the quarterback and wide receivers have identified a 1 high look, and now they understand that we've got to attack the 1 high look in certain areas. Certain areas of a 1 high look become more vulnerable for us to attack, how we're going to adjust to it, and we'll adjust our routes according to the number of safeties. All vertical routes during a 1 high look will be run on the hash mark. A 2 high look. Again, this is the first thing that we teach our quarterbacks as they're at the line of scrimmage. The play's been called. We've identified a 2 high look. He sees the 2 high look. He has to understand, is it cover 4, is it cover 2, or is it a cover 2 man? And so we go through that progression. 2 high look, my eyes now roll down, and as they roll down, I look across, find my corners. My corners are deeper than 5 yards, then we know pretty much it's going to be a cover 4 look. Now we got to decide on where to attack a cover 4. Where do we want to attack a cover 2 or a cover 2 man? And we have all those things built into our system that allows us to run the effective route according to the number of safeties. Our arrows, as we start talking here, we're going to talk a few plays now. But before we start talking these plays, there's a few things that I think that we need to talk about. The number one thing that we teach our kids is that as the number of safeties, we always talk about a 2 high look or a 1 high look, but the number of safeties almost always dictates the advantage or disadvantage to the number of players that we have in the box. To give you an example, the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage and he identifies a too-high look. We're in a 2-by-2 formation now. He identifies a too-high look. His eyes immediately roll to the corners. Okay, he sees that the corners are kind of playing games with him a little bit. Okay, but so say they're backed off just a little. His eyes roll to the inside receivers. If the inside receivers are covered down, and what I mean by covered down, if the Sam and the Will have walked out, or if I could draw an imaginary line from my receiver straight ahead, and any part of that line touches a Sam or Will, then we say that the inside receivers are covered down. So what he's seen is too high look, his eyes rolled down, inside receivers are now covered down. That is 6. You got 2 safeties, 2 corners, and 2 outside linebackers that are out of the box. That's 6. So that gives you 5 players left. So the number of safeties, again, told us that the advantage in the box is 5 players. We need to be running the football. And so we'll have a check set up for that, whether we're going to run the bubble game or whether we're going to run a quarterback power. But we've got 7, they've got 5. The advantage is in the box. You want to run the football. Let's suppose now that as we come out, we've identified a too high look. Inside receivers are no longer covered down. They're actually playing half defenders or split defenders, where the Sam backer and the Will backer are now splitting the difference between the tackle and the inside receivers. Well, if that's the case, then we're saying that there's 7 in the box, and we've got 7 in the box. We need to be throwing the football. And so we'll check to some of our bubble game stuff. So that kind of tells you, again, talking about the number of safeties, and what you need to be doing. So as you work through your zone coverage and how you're going to beat zone coverage, understand that those number of safeties are going to dictate whether you need to run the football or throw the ball. And if you're throwing the ball, what you need to be doing. If a quarterback comes to the line and he's identified a 1-high look and his eyes immediately roll down to the inside receivers and he sees they're covered down. Well, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, whether it be in a man-free or a cover 3. If it's cover 3, then we've got certain things that we want to do to attack cover 3 because they have 6 in the box. So we want to be throwing the football. And so we'll check to a lot of our quick game at that point. So again, the phrase that we always use, the number of safeties almost always dictates the advantage or disadvantage of players in the box. Tells us about running and passing, what we need to be doing. So as we start talking about a few of the plays that we have here, one of them is called arrows. It's a great short yardage play. It can be ran versus any defense, any type of coverage. Can also be ran with the inside receiver and a complement with the outside receiver on a curl route. It's quick pass protection, so you'll see us do a lot of slide and blocking on the end. Arrows versus a 1-high. According to the number of safeties, we change our route running styles. Versus a 1-high look in arrows, you're going to see the receiver, inside receiver must be positioned 5 yards from the tackle. So now he's basically slid his alignment in tighter. So picture us in a 2-by-2, and you'll see in a few minutes, he's actually slid his alignment in a little bit tighter. And what he's going to do is he's going to run a 5-yard speed out. Now, when I say speed out, it's a roll cut out. A lot of coaches refer to it that way. It's not a square out. We want our outside receivers to be wider, basically at the bottom of the numbers, and they're going to run a 6-yard slant. And what we want on this is, because of it being a 1-high look, the chances of it being a cover 3, we want that window to be wider. That's why we have the distance between our inside receiver and our outside receiver fairly wide. In a 1-high look, if you get any wider than this, it's going to make the throw from the quarterback a lot more difficult. So we want to keep it in a little tight. We feel like that it gives our kids an advantage to take advantage of reading that outside linebacker. This is arrows versus a 3-by-1 look or a trips look. It's simple. We're going to take our inside receiver and we're going to run him up the seam to occupy the safety. And then we're going to run our regular arrow look out here. Because of it being a too high look, or that we're going to take and roll cut and try to hit and read that outside linebacker. So you'll see this as it works. You can see as he takes off, he's occupying the safety. Got a 5-yard roll cut and hitting right behind that outside linebacker. Again, this is arrows out of a 3-by-1. Quarterback is in a 3-step rhythm throw, and we'll talk about quarterback development in the spread, no huddle, in another series. But he's in a 3-step rhythm throw, getting the ball up and coming across. Okay. You can watch here. You can see his alignment. He can't get pressed and jammed. Okay. Out of 5 wides. We'll also run arrows out of 5 wides. And you can see, again, this is a 2-by-2 look here. Going back to what we originally talked about, number of safeties almost dictates. Read your number of safeties here. They've got us outnumbered in the box right now, or basically we're 6-6. So that puts us the advantage out on the edge. And we feel like that we got the advantage in throwing the football here. Got a roll cut here, 6-yard speed cut across the middle. Quarterback does a great job. Let's go back and look at that. Quarterback does a great job hitting the 6 yards and in, reading that outside linebacker. That's who he's reading. Throwing the ball behind the linebacker. Watch quarterback. Should be a rhythm throw. It's 3 steps. That's 1, 2, 3. The ball's got to be gone. 1, 2, 3, ball gone. Everything we do is on rhythm or a gather throw. This is 3 left. Same concept. You can see right here as we work our 5-yard speed cut and a 6-yard slant behind him. It's a great route. It's a great combination route here versus this zone coverage. As he works his speed cut around, you're going to see off that backside line, or that outside linebacker's hip, it's where the window comes in. Here it is in a tight view. Watch our receiver here identifying possible blitz threat. Quarterback, 1, 2, 3. Does a good job getting rid of the football. Okay, you can watch right here. You can see this receiver here. He's trying to identify, if it's a true cover 2 or what type of coverage it is. You're going to see him moving in and out to try to get his alignment on him. He recognized now it turns into a cover 4 look. 5-yard speed cut. Window is right there, right off the hip. As you can see it develop right there. It's a great opportunity as he widened out his gap. Ball should have been there just a little bit quicker. Definitely don't want to run him into a linebacker here. But anyways, a great throw. Would like to see it happen a little quicker. But I guess the main thing on that I want you to see is watching him as he adjusts and understanding the coverage that it was and allowing that window of opportunity to be a little bit wider for him. Now, arrows versus a too high look. Inside receiver must widen the alignment as wide as possible, or as wide as the outside linebacker will go. It helps create a bigger seam for a quick slant. We understand in a too high look that it very well could be a true cover 2. Well, one of the things we talk to our kids about in a cover 2 look is you never throw the ball in the flats. That's something that we just ingrain in our kids from a young age, that if you got a too high look and you think it's cover 2, we're not going to put the ball in the flats. It helps create a bigger seam for a quick slant as they widen. The outside receiver should align 6 yards from the inside receiver. The quarterback will automatically throw the slant. Don't take a chance with a squatting cornerback. as I mentioned just a little bit earlier. Must try to hold the linebacker as long as possible to create a larger seam for the slant. That's the thing that quarterback's got to understand, is that linebacker could pose the threat in trying to stop that slant. Here's a few of them that I'll show you. Looks like some type of cover 2 on the outside, and he bails. If you'll notice, he starts bailing at the last minute, so it tells us we're rolling to a cover 4, which allows us to throw the out route. Now, a few things that you can do as you incorporate the arrows into your offense is you can take and you can tag a few things with it. For example, arrow fades, which tell us that we're running the arrow routes with the inside receiver and fade routes with the outside receivers. We tag arrow goes, to where we take goes on the outside and arrows on the inside. Those are just, again, they're combination routes, but they're tags that you can tag off of them. In this case here, this is an arrow go. You can see our outside receivers both on go routes. And we're running arrows out underneath, getting leverage. Okay. As we move on, we'll move on to a wider view with the same concept. We've now got a 3 right formation. Still going to run arrows with it. You can see now, reading the outside linebacker, there's a small window in there. And here you can see the window as it opens up, as it comes to open right there. Okay. It's a great job. Notice how the receiver kind of sets down in that window right there. As he breaks his 6-yard slant, you want him to kind of feel, if that window is there and he knows that linebacker is pressing him, to go ahead. It's okay to go ahead and sit down in that area. That there's not a problem with that. The quarterback's just got to do a good job reading that outside linebacker. So here we go. We're tagging arrow fades. As you see here, we've got down close to the end zone. We're going to take a shot at it. We've got a quarterback has a chance to take a 2-step, lay it up, try to hit him in the back corner of the end zone. If he sees that the corner and the outside linebacker are retreating, you can notice to how I look, we're going to roll these guys out wider. Then he has the ability to throw to the flat route, we call it. Okay. To work here, again, same concept, down close to the goal line, we're going to throw our arrow fades. It's a great ball. We tell our quarterbacks, 1 step, rocker throw, we're putting the ball in the back corner of the end zone. You'll see a little later in an instructional video with our quarterbacks. Here's a great one down here in a big ball game, big district ball game for us. We've got arrow fades called. You can recognize that they've overloaded us to this side. Watch this is one of our top receivers. They were dropping an outside linebacker and a safety with him. You can see the safety cheating. Right there he comes into the picture. And because of the drop of the outside linebacker, the quarterback rolls his eyes down and we throw leverage to the flat defender. As we talk about combination routes to beat zone coverage and wind up our discussion here, one last one that we talked about is our smash game. Our smash game takes outside receivers on 5-step stops, inside receivers on 9 to 12-yard flag routes. And the one thing we talk about is never to beat zone cover, or never to beat or throw over the top of a retreating corner. I hope you've gotten a little bit out of this today. It's been a pleasure me visiting with you, and hopefully I brought something to you and to your program that'll help you, that maybe put in to help you develop your quarterbacks from your younger ones all the way up, and your receivers, and possibly even add a play that may help you win a championship ball game, give you an opportunity to do that. But it's been my pleasure, and thank you.